Okay, I wanted to brainstorm with you on an idea.
Great. What idea would you like to brainstorm about?
I have this idea about self-alignment in LLMs. Let's say, so today, LLMs are aligned based on like general rules of human, right? It is like very generic. But in my head, an LLM should be aligned more subjectively. For example, a busy finance person or an elderly would have different preferences or different way of interacting with an LLM. And we can essentially align the LLM with these different personas. I don't want the personas to be too specific, like per person you have one persona and then align it with that person. But just think of like more generic stuff, like finance people or people in law and these things, like the different groups. Then if we define these personas, like let's say three or four of them, then we can get the LLM to use them and align itself. So what do I mean by align itself? Like self-alignment, I mean that you get the LLM to respond to a given query. Let's say we have millions of queries. We take the query number one, and we give it to LLM, and we generate a response. But we generate a response for like 3 or 4 times with different temperature, like with the temperature of let's say zero point 0.3, and we generate three responses. Then we give these three responses to the same LLM, saying that, hey, these are the responses to this query, and this is the persona of a user. Can you simulate what would this user say if it sees these three responses? Then using this simulation, then the LLM can tell us that which one of these responses are more, aligned with that user. Then we do the same across millions of queries, and then we generate a data set that then we can use to align the LLM. This is the idea. What do you think?
This is a really interesting idea. The concept of subjective alignment through personas could make LLMs much more effective in serving diverse user groups. One angle to explore further could be how to define and characterize these personas in a way that's both comprehensive and practical. For example, would you base the personas on communication styles, decision making processes, or even preferred topics of conversation? And how granular do you want these personas to be? Another point is the simulation step, where the LLM judges which response aligns best with a given persona. You mentioned using different temperature settings to generate varied responses. Would you consider adding additional layers of context, like recent interactions or specific prompts, to further guide the LLM in making these decisions? What do you think? How would you approach defining the personas and refining the simulation process?
I think we can go with some like two or three personas, like let's say elderly, busy finance, and a lawyer, and then we define those personas. That's not too hard. But what I'm thinking of is that let's see if we are on the same page. So in my head, we first get a bunch of queries. Second, we use an LLM with high temperature to generate a response to those queries. Third, we give the persona to the same LLM, and we tell the LLM that, hey, this was a question and this was a response. What would this user think? Give medium, high, or low in terms of satisfaction of the user. And then we do that for three or four generated responses. And then doing that, it gives us some indication of what would the user with the given persona think about this given responses, and then we use that to rank the responses. Then we will have queries response pairs for that particular persona. Are we on the same page?
Yes, we're on the same page. You've outlined a clear process. 1. Gather a set of queries. These would serve as the input for generating responses. 2. Generate responses. Use the LLM with a high temperature setting to generate multiple varied responses for each query. 3. Persona based evaluation. Feed the generated responses back into the LLM along with a defined persona, e.g., elderly, busy finance, lawyer. The LLM then simulates how a user with that persona would respond to each generated answer, giving a satisfaction rating, e.g., medium, high, or low. 4. Rank the responses. Based on the persona's simulated satisfaction, you rank the responses. 5. Create a dataset. The output is a set of query response pairs that are ranked or scored based on their alignment with the persona. This dataset can then be used for further training or fine-tuning the LLM to better align with each persona. It sounds like a solid approach. How do you plan to measure the effectiveness of this alignment? Would it be through user feedback or perhaps another evaluation method?
This is a really good question. I think that is the expensive part. We can definitely do user feedback, find some lawyer and say that which one is better and so on, but that would cost us thousands of dollars. But probably one thing that we can do as a POC is that to show that the alignment across different personas is actually statistically different. That would be a good start. It doesn't tell us which one is better, but it would tell us that the way that the system aligns itself would be different across different persona. Can you have a short answer? Do you agree with this?
Yes, I completely agree with this approach. Demonstrating that the alignment is statistically different across personas is a solid first step. It shows that the self alignment process is effective in distinguishing between different user groups, even if it doesn't yet determine which alignment is better. This could provide a strong foundation for further refinement and eventual user testing.
Okay, another question would be, are there any data sets out there about queries that I can use? Let's say there was this data set about ChatGPT queries that we can use probably to generate responses for. Are there some data sets? Can you do an internet search, find some data sets, and give me a very short report of existence of those data sets?
Yes, there are several datasets available that you can use to generate responses for queries and perform self alignment experiments with LLMs. Here are a few notable ones. 1. ShareGPT. This dataset includes around 70,000 conversations shared by users through an open source Chrome extension. It's been used as the foundation for training open source chatbots like Vicuna 13b, making it a valuable resource for exploring general conversational data. 2. UltraChat, a large-scale, multi-round dialogue dataset generated using ChatGPT Turbo APIs. It's designed for high-quality conversational AI research, featuring dialogues generated through a dual API approach, which ensures reliable and diverse data. 3. BotBots, a dataset featuring dialogues between two instances of ChatGPT, covering various contexts and tasks like task-oriented dialogues and abstract reasoning. It provides a wide array of conversation types, which could be useful for testing alignment across different personas. These datasets should offer a good starting point for your proof of concept, especially in terms of generating varied responses to queries that can be evaluated for alignment with different personas.
Can you do an internet search to find out, in let's say an archive website, to find out if there are other ideas similar to this? There should be some, but what I want you to do is to highlight the differences and which one can I use. Give me a very short response.
I found several research papers and concepts that are somewhat similar to your idea of self alignment in LLMs, though with different focuses. 1. iSheep. This iterative self alignment approach allows LLMs to improve by generating their own training data and refining their responses without human intervention. It continuously enhances the model over iterations, focusing on improving performance across various benchmarks. The difference here is that iSheep focuses more on continuous self improvement rather than aligning responses to specific personas, like in your concept. 2. Self alignment for factuality. This approach uses self evaluation to reduce hallucinations in LLMs, particularly focusing on improving factual accuracy. While it involves the LLM self assessing its outputs, its goal is to ensure factual.
Okay, this is good. Can you write a short report, like a literature review, generate also what is the idea, like an abstract, and how are we going to test it? can you generate a short report starting with an abstract about the idea and a literature review based on the papers that you found? How are we different, and how are we going to test the idea?
Abstract. This report explores the concept of self-alignment in large language models, LLMs, tailored to specific personas such as elderly individuals, busy finance professionals, and lawyers. The proposed approach involves generating multiple responses to user queries using an LLM, followed by an internal